You know, you probably walk by this sign 100 times without noticing the bracket. The bracket holding up the MC's dugout sign was meant for a different bar. This space used to be the Grand Mantel Saloon. Before that, a bank.
The building we're talking about, the First National Bank, was built initially in 1889. It was added onto sometime after that. In the late 1970s, when the Grand Mantel Saloon occupied the lower floor of this building, the Stearns History Museum, Research Center, and Archives were in the top or third floor of this building.
The bracket held a sign, Joe O'Connell, carved by hand. For years, no one knew where it had gone, but someone never stopped looking. This place has seen a lot. It started as a bank. The old vault was over there. You can still see the original hinges. And then it was a saloon, and now a bar. And when it was a saloon, saloons were unique. Saloons were something that kind of faded away, the word saloon, after Prohibition because of in fact, there was an anti-saloon league as one of the main impetus to Prohibition was, of course, the anti-alcohol.
At first, the bar owner wanted to have Grand Mantel Bar, and my father talked him into changing it to Saloon so the lettering would be symmetrical. And a lot of times, the customer would want something and had some specific idea, but my dad would kind of convince them that what he had in mind was better than what they had in mind, and it usually turned out better that they followed his advice than their own, which is kind of egotistical, but it always seemed to work out. And he also kind of invented his own font for this. This is purely done out of his imagination, and it's got so much movement. And if you just look at the letters, they just seem to come out and move. It's really magnificent.
Even the Chamber of Commerce, when they opened up this place, they had signs that said Grand Mantel Bar. It's because of Joe O'Connell and the artist that he was, and wanted to create that sense of place. When you saw that sign, you knew where you were. You were at the Grand Mantel Saloon. After Prohibition, you started calling things bars, or even took the name of what was probably more prominent in the United Kingdom, pubs. But saloons were something that really, in the 19th century, were what bars were called, because any place west of the Mississippi in the new frontier, they call these places saloons. And now you only see saloons are really kind of that nostalgic. Places that are still called saloons, you'll see most of them in the West, or if they want that old Western vibe, they're called saloons, otherwise they're bars.
He insisted on using gold leaf, which is kind of a notoriously difficult substance to use, and I don't know how it's maintained itself. I don't know if he put any shellac over it or anything, but it'd be interesting to find out if we could clean it and get the gold leaf back to the original luster. It would be really, really cool to do.
He carved it like it was going to hang forever.
My dad was an artist, and he was an artist 24 hours a day. He produced a lot of artwork for the short time that he lived. He died at 68. He's got work all around St. Cloud, all around St. John's and St. Ben's. There are a lot of ecclesiastical works and a lot of signage, but as I said, this is probably the only sign that was done in St. Cloud. And he worked up right up until pretty much the day he died. He did a large statue for Las Vegas, and it took him 7 years to finish it, and he finished it and pretty much passed away the next day, so it was pretty amazing. There's a signpost that my father made in conjunction with the Grand Mantel sign that is, when you walk into the MC dugouts, it's right in in a vestibule, and it's in beautiful shape. And my father made the signpost. It used to be outside of the building, and on the very top there was a sculpture of a woman, and you unscrewed the top of the woman and you could put signage inside the sign. 2 weeks after he installed that signpost, the woman had been stolen. And it's still out there somewhere, so there's another mystery for anybody to solve. The sign was hanging up for a good 10 years, and then when the business closed, the building was sold and everything from the bar was distributed, and the sign disappeared.
When the Grand Mantel Saloon changed hands, the sign came down. Most people forgot about it, but Julianne didn't.
And I came back to St. Cloud a few years ago, and I thought, well, I'm going to find out where that sign is.
She started asking questions, at first just out of curiosity, then it became something more. She made calls, emailed curators, dug through records, and reached out to anyone who might have seen it.
Kind of became a searching for, Moby Dick. I was determined to find it, and I knew it had to still be in the St. Cloud area because it's not something you can just pick up and take or lose. When I found out this was missing, the first thing I did was to call the current bar and wondered if it had been put in the basement, put in the attic, or sold or gotten rid of, or somebody took it. And from there, I called the St. Cloud Times, and they did a story on it, and I called the museum here, and I just did a lot of digging and looking through archives, but there was no information about what had happened to the sign.
After years of searching, it turned up in the last place you'd expect. Not in an archive, not behind museum glass, but out in the open, nearly repurposed, almost forgotten.
About 2 years after the newspaper article had come out, I finally had heard something about where the sign was. I got a call from a nurse who worked at the St. Cloud Hospital that had the sign, and it turned out that she had been to a garage sale when she was a nursing student and saw the sign on sale for $50. And even though she was a nursing student, didn't have much money, she purchased it and put it in her Honda Civic and managed to hang on to the sign for over 20 years in her basement. And it turned out that she worked at the St. Cloud Hospital and had overheard a conversation of two people talking about the sign. And she turned around and said, I own that sign. I bought it for $50 at a garage sale. And one of the women she was talking to was Rick Gates' sister, and Rick Gates happened to send his children to the prep school, and I had taught his children. So that's how the word got back to me that the sign was found. I still don't know how it ended up at a garage sale in St. Cloud. So I have no idea.
She wasn't chasing a sign, she was chasing a connection to her father, to what he left behind.
I was absolutely blown away. It's in really good condition. She paid for this metal around the top, and it was in perfect condition. It's amazing. When bringing it home was absolutely fantastic. It was a homecoming. It's where it should be. It's a part of the history of St. Cloud, and people remember it. So it's great that it's here. I was really pleased that it eventually came. It took about 5 years to find it, all total, and to get it into the museum, but here it is. So, my father was an extreme perfectionist. If he saw one little mistake on a print or a photograph or anything, it got thrown in the garbage. And he would fuss over the minutest details that nobody else could see, but he could see them. And he made sure everything was perfect. He worked methodically. He worked with marble, he worked with granite, he worked with wood. He used a forge. He did all his own photography. He had a dark room. He managed to fulfill pretty much every part of artistry that needed to be done in his small studio that he had.
Joe O'Connell left this world at the age of 68, but his work, in particular his work here at the Grand Mantel, the sign that he created, that legacy lives on almost 100 years from his birth.
Everybody loved my dad. Whenever I meet anybody from this area who knew my dad, the first thing out of their mouth was, I love Joe. Joe was great, and it's really nice to hear. And he was a magnificent artist, and I appreciate the fact that he was able to leave so much in this community of himself. So.
The Grand Mantel hosted a lot of people, or a lot of people who came through these doors, but even some famous people. The five most famous comedians, the Minneapolis Five, they were called Louis Anderson, Scott Hansen, some of those folks you know. Jeff Garbino, also here. And Jeff Garbino, somebody, one of those Minneapolis Five, two of the folks that are still with us, performed right here in this building. So it has a lot of history. It has a lot of people have been through these doors. Joe O'Connell was a World War II veteran who left school well before graduation, like many in that generation. He was committed to his craft, is committed to his family, committed to his community.
It's a beautiful piece, and it's solid mahogany, and the color is not a dye or anything. That's the color of mahogany, and it's pretty grand, not to excuse the pun, but just hope that they understand the work that went into it. And the figure at the bottom is Mother Nature, and on the flip side it's Father Time. It looks magnificent. You can see it. The sun glistens off of it. You can see it forever, and it's just, it really takes the lettering and pulls it out, makes it alive. Because if you look at the O's, they're off center, the middles. Can you see that? Just kind of, and they're so round. Anyway, he was good at what he did.
Julianne saw it and knew immediately her father's work, his touch, his design, still there after all this time. It could have been lost, it nearly was, but instead it came back to the person who knew exactly what it was. And now it belongs to all of us again. The Grand Mantel sign isn't up there anymore. It won't be again. But what it stood for, the man who made it, the care that went into it, and the daughter who brought it back, that's still here.